What I've got for you today is a best-of-5 series of Terran versus Protoss between some of the very best players in the world. Game number 1, we find ourselves on the map Altitude, spawning right here in the top right-hand corner, playing with the red Terran SCVs. We have the new StarCraft 2 World Champion, and that still puts a smile on my face, because we're looking at Oliveira's main command center. His opponent in the opposite corner, playing here with the blue Protoss pieces from South Korea, we have the rank 1 Protoss player on the planet, and his name is herO. herO, ever since he came back from his mandatory military service, he's been looking very, very good. The only asterisk you can really put to the title of the best Protoss player on the planet is the fact that some of the other very good Protoss players that we've had historically in StarCraft 2, quite a few of them are currently doing their mandatory military service, like for example CEST and STATS and, you know, other names that you can probably come up with. But honestly, herO has been looking very strong, he's been looking very dominant, and yeah, there's really no doubt in my mind. Who's even really particularly close? I'm trying to think of names right now. Nobody's really particularly close. herO, certainly the very best Protoss player on the planet. Now, I think it's an interesting thought process to talk about Oliveira for a little bit, and whether or not he's the very best Terran player on the planet. Here's the thing about Oliveira. He ended up winning IEM Katowice, and therefore he's the current StarCraft 2 World Champion. Over the last 5 years, however, I would say he's probably been considered to be like maybe like a top 25 player in the world, but I don't think a lot of people would really consider him to be the very best of the best. Names like, for example, Maru, Bjorn, Kjör, Bunny, Clem, maybe even herO Marine, right? There's names out there of Terran players that are very good at the game that I think people would probably, yeah, consider to be a little bit higher ranked than Oliveira, and yet Oliveira, he was on absolute fire, he looked incredibly strong, he basically ended up smashing everybody. Now I always wonder, right, what exactly has changed? So what Oliveira has come out and said is that he's been practicing 12 to 15 hours a day, which sounds incredibly unsustainable, but I guess leading up to a massive tournament with $500,000 on the line, it's definitely not necessarily a terrible plan. Although I highly doubt he's playing that much right now. But still, it's such an amazing story. My favorite part about him winning is that, well, first off, it came very unexpected, right? So that's obviously really cool. But secondly, the man definitely wears his heart on his sleeve, right? The way he's been doing interviews and yeah, the way he's been talking about how his dad was always proud of him and how, you know, his dad mentioned that he's always been the champion in his heart and how he's just a normal man who's been working very hard and he's been trying his best and now it finally can happen. So if he can do it, you can do it. It's just been such a, I don't know, it's been very heartwarming. For the longest time in StarCraft 2, whenever somebody wins a tournament, I would say there's probably two options. Either they're like, yeah, I'm the very best in the world, of course I win. Why are you even surprised, right? That's pro gamer option number 1. Pro gamer option number 2 is the kind of guy who's just kind of shy about it and who hasn't done that many interviews, who's just been, yeah, doing well and then like, yeah, I want to thank my fans, it's been amazing, I'm so happy I won, right? But then there's Oliveira, who's just been, yeah, it's just been a heartwarming story. Anyways, I can continue fanboying about this man for another couple of minutes, but let us actually look at the build orders, because that might just be important. Alright. We have the one pylon to bind them, and in the darkness find them, the one pylon to rule it all. There's a robo facility as well as a Twilight Council right over here for herO, who's opening up with his beloved Blink Stalker start. This is something that man has done many, many times before, and he's very good at microing those units as well. He's trying his best to scout what's happening here. He's being invited inside of the main base of the Terran player, and now he sees, at the cost of an adept, because I don't think it's going to be able to get out, he sees at the very least that it's a, yeah, there you go, a Stimpack follow-up. SCVs here, not really all too bothered. Yeah, single worker going down so far in total. Definitely not terrible. And now we're gonna go for the second barracks as well. Okay. So Oliveira going for a triple Rex start over here. That does, of course, mean that the starport is a little bit delayed, but you can make an awful lot of units very early on into this game. And I think that's exactly what the plan is right here from our Terran player. Blink is finishing up at this point. We've got 4 Stalkers. Probe decides to take control of the watchtower right there in the top left. We have an Adept over here in the bottom right as well. And, oh, Mr. herO, are we gonna go for a cheeky little pylon? He has decided to now go for a prism as well, so he can definitely, yeah, he can definitely use that to warp in reinforcements. But the pylon is a nice backup plan for sure. One problem though with pushing into this Terran base is that he's gonna hit right around the time that Stimpec is finishing up as well, and you gotta be very careful. Losing the Prism, basically GG. Losing a round of Stalkers, basically GG, because Terran's gonna immediately go towards the other side of the map. There is a starport on the back of this, a reactor is coming up as well. Oliveira is gonna do the big switcheroo here momentarily, and that means he's gonna be able to start bumping out those medevacs 2 at a time. So you gotta be very careful right here as herO. You don't want to be losing any of your units unnecessarily. Okay, he's got high ground vision, so he can blink into the main base if he wants to. Yeah, so we are using that slow warp in zone to try and get some additional Stalkers here in the mix as well. Prism has shown up on the right side of the map, and apparently this is the moment where he's thinking about striking. Now, the Observer moved forward, and he sees the gigantic amount of units already available here for the Terran, who, by the way, is finishing up both infantry weapons as well as the combat shields right around the same time. Anyways, Stalker's going deep into the natural expansion. Okay. Robo Bay on the back of it honestly feels a little bit late to me. Maybe I'm mistaken, but the follow-up usually is going to be Colossus from here. Disruptor's also, of course, an option, but Colossi very, very good against this particular unit composition. Third Nexus is coming up right now for herO as well, who's dealing some damage. Now, this is dealing a lot more damage than that first group of Stalkers. Needs to be careful. Okay, Stim over here is going to chase down at least a small group of these units. 9 SCVs have gone down. We're going to warp in additional Zealots now inside of the main base, too. 13 workers are dying, though, and this is not looking that hot right here for Oliveira. One thing, though, that Oliveira still has is a massive army. And you never want to count out a Terran player with a massive army and mules that can mine resources for them. Because, yeah, these mules are going to be able to bring back the juice, right? They're going to be able to bring back the money. This is what I was talking about, though. That Colossus is kind of late. It's only a third of the way done. The Terran army has moved across. Not a lot of energy available anymore on those medevacs. But there's really not a whole lot available right now for our Protoss player to defend with. Look at the Marines. +1 infantry weapons, dealing a stupid amount of damage. Battery overcharge? They don't care. Where is the Colossus? Without a Colossus, you can't really hold this. Well, it's gonna spawn right now. Oh my god. Gotta be so careful, herO. No, 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 no. Huh? Well, you guys can't see it, but I'm putting my hand to my head. That Colossus just walked into the Marine Marauder ball. That's GG. That's game. Next up, we find ourselves on Dragon Skills. This little probe over here wasn't even allowed to bring any resources home. Alright. We'll have to see exactly what he decides to do with it. Might just use it as a scouting worker. That's something that Protoss players have been doing quite a bit. Anyways, that first game, I think it's an excellent example of one player making mistakes and the other guy just playing very solid, very rigid, not really making any errors whatsoever, right? Sure, he lost a lot of SCVs, but he knew exactly the situation that he was in, and he punished herO right away. It's very easy as a StarCraft player to sometimes get caught in unit compositions. I've seen that many times. I've done a lot of StarCraft 2 coaching over the years, and well, I've obviously read Twitch chat and the YouTube comments and everything. I know a lot of people are like, okay, he should have had this, he should have had that. In reality, most of the time in a game of StarCraft, what you need is more stuff earlier on. And the way you get more stuff earlier on is by managing your economy better. It's not necessarily the most exciting subject to talk about, but for example, I think for Zerg players in particular, it's the most apparent. If you try to say, for example, right, you try to copy one of Saryl's build orders, right? And you're like, okay, I'm gonna go triple hatchery, I'm gonna drone up all of those bases, and then I'm gonna start making roaches and ravagers. If you compare the timing at which you saturate your third base to when Saryl saturates his third base, if you've never really done that comparison before and you're below Grandmaster League, I can almost guarantee you it's at least a minute worth of difference. For like a full minute, the man is getting significantly more income than you probably are in your games. And I remember doing this years ago, probably like, I don't know, 2013 or so. I started comparing my exact replays to the pro players' replays that I was using the build orders from, and I realized, wait a second. Even though nothing's gone down in the first 5 minutes of the match, even though nothing's really happened, I'm already behind? How did I manage to pull that off? Plus my creep spread sucks. How in the world did I fall behind even though nothing's really happened yet? So when you start really working on the details, and that's usually one of the reasons why the pro players do grind out a lot of games, at least at some point in their careers, when you're really focusing on the details and you're just, constantly trying to squeeze a second off here, a second off there, you end up with more stuff than you were in the past. Anyways, wouldn't be surprised if that's what Oliveira has been focusing on over the last couple of months when he's been putting in all that work. Second barracks coming up right here. Factorina also planted down. Okay, that early game scouting probe is moving here on the left side of the map. We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what he decides to do, because the second pylon, yeah, it's down inside of the main base here, or sorry, inside of the natural. Usually against Zerg, they will have the second pylon in the main base, and the first one, it is a little bit backwards. Anyways, this time around, it's a Stargate opener here from herO, who's moved that patrolling probe up from over here to right over there. Interesting. Not a super early cheese, that's for sure. Oracle opener here from herO. If you want to go for some early game shenanigans, generally speaking, as a Protoss player, you will proxy that second pylon. Instead, right now, herO is proxying the third pylon. But, I mean, the Nexus itself, in a way, it's kind of like a pyramid, right? Gigantic pylon itself as well to communicate with aliens. Okay, no, okay, sorry. I've been listening to a podcast series. Or I guess it's technically an audiobook, but anyways. I've been listening to like a 60-part series on ancient Egypt. So every single time I see a Nexus now, that's the first thing that goes through my mind. Anyways, it's been very good. Highly recommend. It's been very interesting. Anyhow, Oliveira, yeah, just once more making a lot of stuff. He doesn't really know what he's playing against. He doesn't actually have anything inside of the main base right now either to properly defend against this. But luckily here for our Terran player, okay, Protoss decided to give him the benefit of the doubt that there were going to be units over here in the mineral line as well, so he didn't really commit inside of that mineral line as far as he wanted to. Oftentimes there's like a Widow Mine hiding out of line of sight, there's Marines, maybe a Cyclone there, and well, you can see how close that Oracle was to being killed. If you misposition it, you just lose it right away, so yeah, herO giving his opponent the benefit of the doubt, but I think if he would have just gone straight into the Terran's main base, could have dealt quite a bit of damage. Anyhow, he's gonna continue scouting. NG Bay coming up again as well. herO is once again playing against a Terran player who's happy to go for an aggressive push in just a minute or two. This time around, the Adept, well, it would have been welcomed inside of the main base once again if it was gonna shade in, but I don't think herO really would have committed. Blink once more on the back of this. Jimmy here has been tasked with walking into the Protoss player's main base. Yeah. You know what? Even though he's being sacrificed. No! Jimmy! Keep walking! Jimmy! Okay, fine. He's under a lot of stress, okay? In the meantime, there was also some shenanigans here at home. Oracle at this point out of energy. Protoss here ready to once more go in for a push. The routes in which we got to this position are different. But this is giving me deja vu from the previous game. Okay, getting a medevac here is really nice. Blink is, however, not done yet. Now it's finished. He's not gonna blink in that direction. Instead, he wants to pick up a couple of reinforcements. Oracle here is still darting back and forth. Would have loved to see some sort of static defense here. He's got the NG base, so not entirely sure what's going on there. herO, okay, forcing the siege tanks right now to siege up right outside of his natural expansion. This is, of course, a different situation. Combat shield not nearly as quick, +1 infantry weapons not nearly at the same time either. There's no Colossus on the back of this. It's just going to be a bunch of Stalkers here for now instead. And he's going to add on additional gateways. Now, I like the additional gateways. Ooh. I'm not entirely sure here about the positioning of them, because it's very easy to get this overwhelmed. Then again, though, he may just already have caught this Terran army out in the middle of the map. Excellent moves right here. Gets the medevac as well. herO swipes the floor with that entire Protoss, or sorry, with that entire Terran army. Swipes the floor? Wipes the floor. Whatever, man. You can swipe whatever you like. Bunker at the front. Not finished yet in time, so herO is just gonna start blinking in. Yeah, that's just way too much Protoss. Oliveira forced to tap out. Next up, we find ourselves on Ancient Cistern. herO sending out a scouting worker a little bit later this time around. I'm pretty sure that this probe has been responsible for building that very first pylon. But it's not making its route straight towards the other side of the map. Instead, we're moving right over here. He's got his camera on this side of the map here the entire time, yeah. He's moving the probe on over in this direction. So, I think, yep, we're gonna go for something a little bit more aggressive. Okay. Oliveira hasn't been doing a lot of scouting in this game. Curious to see if he'll go for a Reaper this time around. Ancient Cistern is not really that spicy of a map though, so wouldn't be surprised if he's once more just gonna go straight into the Marine. It is technically a little bit risky, yeah. So there's the second gateway now coming up as well. This is herO ready to start piling on the pressure. This is a massive skill check. If you're not on point with your base defense, this is the type of build order that will just straight up win you the game as the Protoss player. If, however, you do defend cleanly and you don't really take a whole lot of damage, life tends to be pretty good. So it is a Reaper this time around. It's also an SCV leading the Reaper. So at least there should be some sort of information here momentarily. Sadly though, here for Oliveira, he did decide to go for the command center on the low ground. Maybe nothing all too surprising, but it's going to be very difficult to finish that one off. As well, there's going to be a lot of units inside of the Terran's base here very, very soon. I'm assuming that Zealot... Did he cancel the Zealot? Okay. He did cancel the Zealot. He's going to go for an Adept here. I'm assuming an Adept over here too. I would have liked to actually see the Zealot here. Anyhow. He scouts it. He actually sees it right now. Oliveira knows what he's playing against. That's really nice. I would have liked to see that Zealot coming across the map just to... yeah, try and slow down this command center even more. Because usually the follow-up units that pop out of these gateways are really in charge of shutting this down properly. I think he's already done a good amount of damage, but now there's a lot of mules, or wannabe mules, a lot of SCVs pulled to the front as well. I think this command center is gonna finish. If the CC finishes, sure, there's been a lot of lost mining time, but... honestly, kind of an uninspired push right here from herO. Obviously, he's not done yet. He needs to justify this opener in some way. He's gone for his own Nexus on the low ground too, but there's the CC finishing up. It's mispositioned. He's gonna morph it into an orbital command first before he'll lift it off and, well, put it in a better place. Tech lab coming up right here on the factory as well. And even though this is kind of annoying here for Terran, I think that's really about it. It's difficult to play against and you don't really want to freak out, but it's certainly not the end of the world. He can just land the mule inside of the main base and get some additional mining that way. There you go. Not really at a risk, just dancing back and forth, repositioning the orbital command. Life is a-okay. Okay. So this wasn't the most aggressive variant of this opener, right? It's just that this gateway is likely to go down and with it the pylon, which can kind of suck. Good movement there by Oliveira once again. Oliveira is looking really solid, man. In the previous game he made a mistake, obviously. But overall, the man's been looking very, very solid. Blink coming up right here for herO. So there's of course a chance that his plan to defend this gateway and to not just give up on this position is to be continuously aggressive. It's a plan, but also a bit of a risky one, because now siege tanks are coming up. Siege tanks have some pretty good positions where, well, Protoss can be pushed back very nicely. And as soon as you have some additional army units ready to go, you can really just go out into the map and kill that proxy gate. It's not really that high of a priority here for Oliveira either, but he'll probably shut it down before he really wants to go for a big move himself. Okay. Hey, by the way, it's a pretty good time to be a Terran player. I found out about this, I think about 2 hours or so ago. I posted about it on Twitter as well. I mean, every single one of you that watches my videos follows me on Twitter, right? So you probably have already read it. But just on the off chance that you don't, it's at LowkoTV, by the way. Just on the off chance that you don't, Mr. Innovation, I'm about 99% sure, signed up for the first edition of the KSL, which will be taking place next week. That's a new Korean weekly tournament, so the community has been putting money together to basically run this new series of events. I'll make a video about that as well coming up, but anyways, Innovation signed up for it. So what's kind of ironic is that Innovation mentioned when he first went off to his mandatory military service that he wasn't gonna come back. He had played enough StarCraft 2 and he did not intend on coming back at all. And now it seems that the man actually decided to sign up. So I believe that's the first tournament that Innovation is planning on playing. Coming back again, unless it's someone who stole his nickname, which would kind of suck. But as far as I can tell, the account was used by Innovation in the past. And it's been used for about 6 years, and then it wasn't used for like 2 years ever since the man left, and now it's once again active. So it seems to me that it definitely is the real Innovation. So as soon as the guy has shown us some games, I'll make sure to cover that on the YouTube channel as well. So make sure to subscribe so you get notified as soon as those videos go live. Anyhow, herO has been, excuse me, sorry. I just sat up straight in my chair and just let my mouse apparently move the screen. herO has been happily expanding on the back of this. I actually quite like this move from him. So this entire game, he's been posturing like he's the most aggressive boy in the world. But in reality, he's taken the third Nexus here. He's been happily macroing up. One thing though to not underestimate is the power of a 2-base attack from our Terran player. Notice the distinct lack of, well, a big structure over here that can land at the third command center location. Oliveira is gonna go for one big ass push. This is the kind of build that you can practice over and over and over again in your own games as well. Because nothing spicy really went down other than that early game defense. Okay, now these adepts are trying to get some damage done. Siege tank in the back. Originally meant to prepare for a push in the main base, but still very helpful over here too, as long as it doesn't deal too much splash damage here to the friendly units. In the end, actually, that was pretty good. 3 adepts for 3 SCVs, not a bad trade at all. Anyhow, this is a big push. This is a scary push. herO knows that something along these lines is coming. So now the third CC finally comes up, but this is already 7 minutes into the game. He knows that something spicy is coming, but he needs to be very, very careful. Okay, getting that prism is massive. Now suddenly this drop is not that terrifying anymore. There was also a push at the front, but looks like the Terran units did need to stim once. But there are enough medevacs in the air right now to repair this Terran army back to full as well. Terran only at 45 workers. herO at 59 here, which is great. But he doesn't have that many heavy hitters. He's really reliant on mostly just his basic unit composition. So charge is done, blink is done as well. He's trying to get the medevac here, but he needs to be very careful. There's no Colossus to fall back to, there's just that one Immortal. Okay. This is Bio, with Stimpack, with combat shields, with concussive shells. Trading out units wherever he can. Oh man, it sucks losing that prism. If you can really harass the Terran's main base right now, life becomes a whole lot better. Oliveira actually awaiting the second prism. He knows that it's likely that one is gonna once again come up, and that's exactly what we see coming out of herO right now. You need to get some sort of damage done here though, as Terran, because you've been behind economically here for some time already. Okay, Zealots decided to return back home. That is a pretty good charge, but also using his own siege tanks there as a funnel. I think that herO is going to be able to shut down the tanks, and with that, the reinforcement should be enough to shut down the rest of this Terran army as well. Okay, whoa, okay. Woo, we just finished up the command center, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Apparently, SCVs are no longer optional. We're going to send them to the battle instead. Well, I guess they're optional for economy. Yeah, we don't really need a whole lot of them to mine out our 2 bases here. Instead, we're gonna be bringing them to the front. This is a very ballsy move here from Oliveira. He needs to get damage done. He must have looked at that Protoss army. He's like, wait a second. If you're gonna be fighting my SCVs here for some time, if they can soak up some of the damage, I should be able to push through this. Storm gets denied over here, and that means that herO is not gonna be able to make use of those High Templar. Maybe he can feed back a medevac that has no HP. Anyways, in the meantime, there are a couple Zealots here trying to be obnoxious, but the reinforcing Terran units are showing up. Liberators up in the air as well to zone away that Protoss force. There are units, though, made out of the gateways, but most of the pylons here are destroyed, and these gateways are also shut down. Is there enough right now for Protoss to break through this? The Immortals are taking a lot of damage. Both of them end up going down. There's a third one available over here, and Nexus still survives with just 61 HP. Okay, here's the rest of the Terran reinforcements. Did he ever get rid of that prism? Yeah, he did. The other prism also got destroyed. Siege tank once again in a very juicy position. Immortal there goes down. Nexus also gets picked off, mostly just to make room though for these Marines and these Marauders to move a little bit deeper into the Protoss player's natural expansion. Pylon here that's powering the rest of this gets shut down as well, and that's GG. Next up, we find ourselves on Grespin. Barracks here was supposed to be planted on top of the ramp, but instead it needs to be planted a little bit closer towards the command center, as that pesky probe from herO was once again sent out at the very start of the game. He wants to deal as much damage as possible, right? But sadly for him, these aren't Brute War workers. Sometimes in StarCraft 1, if you're playing against someone who has very good worker control, it seems like they've just suddenly shown up at the 1 minute mark with the strongest unit in the game. If you micro your early game workers in StarCraft 1 well, okay. It's yeah, it's definitely a menace. So yesterday, by the way, I posted that video featuring a game of StarCraft Brood War. And I'm actually very happy to read all of the positive responses. Ooh, good repair micro there. But yeah, very happy to see all of the positive responses. It seems to me that quite a few people enjoyed watching that video. I'll probably do a couple more moving forward as well. It'd be fun to have a look at the very least some of the other matchups too. Maybe feature a Zerg game as well. I think that would be a lot of fun, but good to see there's still people interested also in a 25-year-old game. And it's actually kind of amazing, right? So lately, especially on Twitter, there's been a lot of drama, because of course there's been a lot of drama, because it's Twitter, right? That's what we do. But there's been a lot of drama with the Olympic Committee in particular. Don't know exactly how many of you follow the Olympics closely, but they announced the lineup for games that they're gonna do as like the esports part of things, right? So they have like an esports section at the Olympics this time around, just like they did last time. And last time around, StarCraft 2 was part of it. This time around, they've decided to change the lineup of games entirely to a bunch of random games that nobody really knows. It's all very questionable. But anyways, one of the main criteria that I've heard from a lot of people, right, is that esports is too young for it to be considered for it to be considered an Olympic game, because many of them come and go, right? There's a chance that we're gonna have an esport that's popular right now that's not gonna be popular in like 3 years from now because, well, you know, players have moved on, the developers have stopped supporting it. But I think if there's one esport out there that has proven for such a long time that it's reliable and it's gonna be here for a very long time to come as well, out of all of them, I think it's StarCraft Brood War. StarCraft 1. It's been popular for 25 years. It hasn't really gotten any support from Blizzard in quite a while, other than the remastered edition of the game. Yeah, it's still going strong. I don't know, just my thoughts. But I feel like, you know, it's better than having that mobile tennis game or whatever that they announced. Couple of depths right here. Going across the map, Jimmy and his friends. Well, not Jimmy himself, just his friends. They managed to sit in the bunker. 2 SCVs, by the way, in here at low hit points. Apparently more valuable than the Marines. A little bit sad. Yep, they're gonna return back to mining over here. Good control coming out of Oliveira once again, but losing at least a little bit. Phoenixes coming out of the Stargate. Okay, now Phoenixes are usually followed eventually with, of course, Colossi. I think that's probably going to be the name of the game right here for our Protoss player who now planted down a robo facility. I thought for a second it was just the gateway. That would have been a bit confusing, but no. We're going to go for the Phoenixes here instead. This does usually mean that Oliveira is not going to be able to move out very much. Because the problem is against Phoenixes, of course, is, well, they're going to be able to lift up your mineral line and still come home in time to defend as well. These units are fast and they're forcing the Terran player to play defensively. If anything, though, so far in this series, it seems that Oliveira is more than happy to play this defensively, right? He seems very comfortable at sitting back and just making a lot of stuff and then eventually overwhelming the Protoss player. So there's the Robo Bay coming up. Very important. You need it to make Colossi. So this is a pretty quick Colossus transition as well, by the way. No third Nexus or anything along those lines. At this point, herO knows that his life is on the line as well for this particular match, as we are, of course, at match point here for Oliveira. He decides to go Stimpack. He's going Combat Shields. He's going for the +1 infantry weapons too. And we're once again just pumping out a ton of units. So this isn't the most complex unit composition as far as, like, you know, the basics go, but Oliveira's execution has been excellent. Just 100% on point here when it comes to his unit production. It's very easy to think you have amazing macro as a Terran player when you're continually, queuing up units. So you really want to be producing out of these structures as much as possible, but you obviously don't. Ooh, he spots the little blurry bit right there. Anyways, you don't want to be queuing up units because that's just wasted money. Yeah, as soon as those Phoenixes leave, he now realizes that they're gonna have to, well, find a new angle to attack from. Apparently that's the moment that these Medevacs pilots feel brave enough to start flying towards the bottom of the map. herO is gonna technically be able to intercept this if he knew that they were flying there, but at this point, he's lacking vision of that side of the map. So instead, he's settling right now for some more SCVs. What exactly is available here for Protoss? Well, he's got a Colossus, he's got a couple sentries, but they're not in the right position. There's really not that much available here for Protoss at all. herO is ready for a drop that could be leaving towards the top section of the map, but it seems that Oliveira... Ooh. Okay, this is a nice spot right here for herO. It seems that Oliveira is ready to, okay, boost into the opponent's main base and maximize the damage. Phoenixes get recalled back home. Colossi will probably... No. Okay, it's just the Immortal right here and a Stalker. I think the Colossus is needed over here, man. He's afraid of another secondary push here. That Immortal is nice, I suppose, but this is definitely gonna deal some damage. There's the Colossus right now joining in the fray as well. An expensive set of units to lose right here for Oliveira, but even more expensive of a set of losses right here for our Protoss. At the same time, there's the Terran push. Moving up towards the newly acquired third Nexus here of the Protoss player. He's ready to target fire it down. There's a couple of Widow Mines, killing all of the sentries. No reaction. Can he get a Colossus as well? On his way out, he will. Loads up the units that are left over inside of the Medevacs, and he's out of here. Well, that Phoenix, I guess, is being annoying. But that was an excellent exchange right there for Oliveira. Killing a whole lot of workers in the main base, killing the third Nexus, but also killing that Colossus and the 3 sentries. Those sentries most definitely did not need to go. Oliveira out-controlling his Protoss opponent there. So normally, whenever you lose your third base and a bunch of economy, what do? Nice pickup there by the Protoss, by the way. You go for an all-in. But you really can't easily go for an all-in here if you've just lost your most expensive units, right? 3 sentries? That's 300 meter or 300 gas. Sorry, that's so much. That's a lot of your investment. You really need it for Guardian shields, but also for force fields. Oliveira right now knows that really what he needs to do is defend. Couple of SCVs, once again, push to the front. Widow Mine right there on Burrows, so it does deal, well, hopefully some damage here momentarily. Oliveira a bit early right there on pulling the trigger for that Stimpak. Well, he's got enough energy to bring those units back up to full HP. He's just trying to produce as big an army as possible right now. Good force field here, trying to get rid of that bunker, but the SCV is still getting some work done. Careful, don't lose the Prism. Prism ends up going down. A couple of Vikings right there up in the air, dealing so much damage. Now they're going to be able to start working as well on that Colossus. Secondary Colossus right now coming across the map, but the first one has already died. Now suddenly the units here are on the chase. Do we have concussive shells? Well, it's not really even needed, because this Colossus is certainly gonna fall as well. Look at that SCV. Kill steal right there. Or at least claiming it got the kill, even though it's got 0 confirmed kills on its name. Anyways. Oliveira leading this series very, very significantly. We're gonna need one hell of a disruptor hit. Well, you know, that was pretty dang good. Getting the siege tank there as well. Okay, battery overcharge. Seems like it's gonna be enough for now. Look at the minimap though. A lot of red units here are coming across. Oliveira is smelling blood in the water, but he does not want to overextend here. That's for sure. Battery overcharge, of course. It's gonna be on cooldown for a little while. Colossus is dealing a lot of damage, but once again, ooh, good pickup. Very nice pickup right there by Terran. Once again, this Colossus is also gonna end up going down. Imagine if during all of this, there were 3 more sentries and a Colossus. Right? Remember what that previous push we saw? Oh my god, if there were 3 more sentries and a Colossus in the mix, I think that would have been it. Anyways, herO, he says, GG, well played. And that means that Oliveira ends up winning this particular game. So, what I didn't mention at the beginning of this cast, because I didn't want to spoil it for you, is that this was the StarCraft 2 IEM Katowice semi-finals. Meaning that the winner of this particular match moves on to the grand finals. The difference between 3rd and 4th and 2nd is about $30,000. So this is Oliveira securing himself at least another 30k. But of course, we know he ended up winning the whole thing, which, like I said, it's still such an amazing story. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. Have an amazing rest of your day. Don't forget to smile, and I'll see you once again in the next one.